and welcome to another edition of Cricket 360. Day 4, the final day after a lot of rain. In the afternoon, when we spoke, we had just showed you a clipping where Anand Vasu had mentioned that the rain gods were a bit kinder to us. But unfortunately, literally, when the show stopped, it started pouring. But glad we had some good amount of cricket. On today's show, we have a special guest, Joydeep Mukherjee. Joydeep, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. And very soon we'll have Boria Majumdar joining us as well. We obviously the cricket was probably short if depending on which side of the camp you were in. It was good cricket, but if you're an Indian fan, perhaps you're pretty dejected that those 122 runs came in rather quickly. But if you're a cricket fan, kudos to Dean Elgar. It to me seemed like he hadn't left from Wanderers 2018. That 86 not out, he just literally came on and carried on. And it's just not just the runs, but the manner in which all the three batsmen batted, in the way they stitched partnerships. It was fabulous to watch. I thought, on a day 4 Wanderers pitch, I didn't expect. I'm not sure if the pitch got better. We'll hear from the different experts, but kudos to South Africa. The series remains alive. It's obviously going to be 1-1 when we go into Newlands in Cape Town, where India has never won against South Africa. Joydeep, what's your take on day 4? Where did you think India or the Indian bowling attack lacked? What went wrong?
Firstly, this is why we love sport, because we never know what to expect. Everybody thought that India will win this game, seeing the bounce. Where I thought that things did not work in India's favor. One was that the pitch did become a bit benign as the play went on, and also you had to get enough wickets with the new ball once the ball was hard, because our bowlers are not as tall as the South African bowlers. So for them to get that steeper bounce, you got to be a couple of yards shorter, which means the batter is getting more time to see what's happening off the pitch. But if you see the South African bowlers, they are much taller, so they can actually bowl lengths, and in spite of that, trouble you with the height. That was one. The second part was the fact that when Cheteshwar Pujara and Ajinkya Rahane started playing some shots, and that looked good, that started to worry me, because I knew that that's when the pitch is becoming a bit slower. And then we had to get probably another 100, 150 runs more than what we had. Also, Siraj, the tallest bowler, was not in play. Sami and Shardul are not the tallest. There's a massive foot difference between the release of the ball, and that makes a huge difference in such conditions.
No, spot on. I think absolutely. From my lens, I thought even the lengths that we bowled, we just didn't capitalize. Absolutely, we don't have the height. Bounce is probably not in our favor, but I thought even the lengths where Bumrah bowled on occasions, Shardul and Siraj. I mean, maybe he's injured, but that particular over where I think we gave 44 boundaries. I thought we probably lost the plot there. Also, I wanted to get your perspective on this before we get to batting. Ashwin, I mean, there are two perspectives that Sudhir and I have been discussing over the last couple of days. One is, has he been underutilized? And the other is in terms of the support that he deserves. I mean, the field setting to me, especially with less than 100, I was wondering why couldn't we have a more attacking field if we didn't have much to lose either. We just had, we had a couple of slips, but no silly mid on, silly mid off, or we could have had probably a leg slip, because again, a lot of the shots were going, especially of Elgar, were going down leg, where he could, he had 5 good balls, but suddenly a loose ball, and he kind of made the most of that over. What did you think of Ashwin being underutilized, if at all?
See, I think the reason Ashwin wasn't used much is because at any point in time, he did not look really dangerous on this pitch. Because on this sort of a pitch, you need to give Ashwin a lot of overs, a lot of time to get his way around getting wickets. He plods his way around. He'll have different plans for different people. And with regard to having attacking field, when you don't have enough runs on the board, that's something that is always playing on your mind. I think the fact that he brought up a very important point, that we didn't bat well in the second innings when we could have. And that's the reason why we could not put them under pressure. Even when there was a little bit of a partnership, our fields had to get defensive. And that's where we played into their hands, because that's what they wanted. They could not attack us. And the moment you attack South Africa, they're in trouble. But for that, you need runs.
Fair enough. Boria, welcome to the show. We were just talking about, if you're Test cricket fan, this was fabulous because you just didn't expect the outcome. But from an Indian fan perspective, a bit dejecting because I think all of us felt we could have, if not won this with 240 on board, something that South Africa has not chased. On this particular ground, we were a bit deflated. That I thought the victory came in a bit too quickly. What was your take on today's day of play as well as the 122 runs, the way South Africa chased them?
You know, I agree. Even when sort of India got that 240 run lead, I was also of the opinion that India should win. So make no mistake, I thought that was enough. And our bowling attack, the quality of this bowling attack will be able to get South Africa out for 240, under 240. But when you chase 240 on your sort of 180, 90 for three, the last 40, 50 runs will inevitably come in a canter because then the bowling team sort of gives up, you get deflated, some freebies come. It will inevitably happen. The real change, according to me, 118 for two, the first half an hour, 45 minutes. You should have sort of gotten two there. If India would have gotten two by 135, 40, 150 for four, 150 for four. And if you see from Marco Jansen onwards, there's Olivier, there's Rabada, there's Ngidi and Maharaj. So it's a long tail. It is a pretty long tail as far as South Africa is concerned. So 2 wickets in the morning, 2 wickets. If you had dislodged Elgar and one more and you were in the game. So it was just, and you've got to say in sport, you also need luck. Think about it, the number of times edge over the slip, cutting him into half not happening happens. That is why this is real, not real. If you're an Indian fan, you have every reason to be disappointed, but let's not be too harsh on this bowling unit. Time and again, they've done it. And Joydeep will know, being a cricketer himself, that look, not every day is your day, even if you give 200%. When you saw Bumrah today, he was giving everything that he had. Shami was giving everything that he had. Didn't go your way. Having said that, if you still put me in the spot, I'll say third test, this team will turn it around and it'll be our series.
Yeah, just to give a cue from that, before Boria came in, I was saying this is what makes sports so good, intriguing to know. You have no idea which way it's going to go. Everybody thought that this was going to be India's day. And the Indian bowlers did put everything. They've been on fire the last 3 years. But today was an off day for them because today Bumrah had to be less than 2 runs and over. Shami had to be less than 2 runs and over. They were also leaking runs. So when you leak runs with not too many runs in board, then the new captain, first test match, he's also, in the back foot. He doesn't know what to do. And it was evident, a Saurav Ganguly or a Dhoni would have probably attacked it differently. But he's on his first test. I feel for the guy. A first test match, probably got to know in the morning of the game or maybe a day before that he's going to lead a team. And in South Africa, it's not easy in the bull ring. And the bowlers did not, like you have off days with the bat, you get out straight away. When you have an off day with the ball, it's all day because, you're a bowl all day. You have an off day, you're out, you're gone, you're inside. Your agony is over. But when you have an off day with the ball, which as a group we had, as far as accuracy is concerned, because if you're giving less than 2 runs and over, then you're building the pressure. Then one ball comes, you're gone. That's what we could not do today. There were too many release balls in between.
I think that is the point. That is exactly the point. Joydeep hit it, hit the nail on the head. You did bowl some really good balls. You bowled some excellent balls. If you think that edge of Rassie van der Dussen going over slip, that Dean Elgar ball going through second and third, cut off the Temba Bavuma of Shardul Thakur going through third. Now the call is, you did bowl wicket-taking balls, but thereafter, you gave release balls. You went for boundaries. The pressure was not sustained. But again, these guys are not machines. It can happen. That is why this is sport. You're still 1-1 with all to play for in the series. India bowled them out for, by the way, 229 after getting out for 202. So credit to the bowlers for having kept them in the game right through. Today, unfortunately, 2 quick wickets that would have changed the script. Didn't happen. Mohammad Siraj was not 100%. That was another issue as well. So all said and done, no credit taken away from South Africa. They were lucky. Some of the dismissals could have gone India's way. The edges could have gone to hand. Yes, 1-1, but I still believe that this bowling unit and the Indian unit is good enough to turn it around in the third test.
Yeah, good to hear that. But let's also talk. You rightly said, credit where it's due. I just thought the approach the South African batsman had. I mean, at one end, Elgar his grit, determination. He's probably taken a dozen blows. Phenomenal way as a captain. The other side, I think the other batsmen around him, I love the positive approach. whether it's a Peterson, whether it's Bavuma, whether it's Rassi. I mean, they were looking to score because typically on these low scoring games, I think you could take a bit more defensive approach because time is not an issue. But it was very refreshing to see that they were all very, very, certain and decisive that look, we're here to win. We're going to support the captain and we're going to go for it. Did you see this to be very different from their approach last time round? Any thoughts on the South African batting yesterday and today, Joydeep?
Yeah, I thought that they played was they took a key out of that because that was very important for them. Somebody like Pujara or Rahane also stepped up the gas. They probably got a cue standing in the slip, standing in the gully, Bavuma talking to themselves. Maybe this is the way to go about it because look at these guys. They're getting some success here. Because on this sort of a pitch, against taller bowlers like South Africa has, there will be a ball with your name on it. So it's best when you get a chance. And also the bowlers should be feeling that this guy is trying to score runs. The best batsmen in the world, the Tendulkars, the Vivs, anybody you say, every time you bowl to them, you thought, oh my God, am I going to get league for runs? But when you bowl to a defensive batsman, you thought, okay, I'm not worried about runs. How can I get him out? So, your mindset changes. I've spoken to the best of bowlers. They say, we hated bowling to Sehwag because he's trying to hit you 4 every ball. Right. So we'd rather bowl to anybody else than a Sehwag because he's trying to hit you. A spinner would say he's trying to hit you 6 every ball. So first thing I'm thinking is that I'm not going to give a 6.
Right.
Whereas when I'm bowling to a Dravid, I'm thinking I'm going to get him out to short leg. So they're two different mindsets, two great players, but just how you, as a bowler, you approach the two batters.
So clearly counter-attacking, definitely helps. And I love the thought that the fact that when you're observing opponent batsmen, you probably are already thinking as a batsman that maybe this is how I must adapt my game.
Always.
Bhuria, your thoughts on South African batting?
Yeah, again, I thought after that Aiden Markram wicket, that period was key. And the last half an hour of yesterday, when Van der Dussen could have been out 15 times, and if you really observe that period, India did not just get that wicket. If they had think of the first test. Bumrah bowled Van der Dussen, clinically cleaned off Maharaj, game changed. Yesterday, they came close, could not clinch that wicket. And today morning, the first few overs, once the counter-attack and that free run started, the wide for 5, couple of boundaries of Shami, 1 wide 5 of Shami, I thought that 15-run over almost sort of changed the complexion of the game. But again, if you really think, as Joydeep said, from the first test match in South Africa in 18, I think this is one of perhaps the only time, or if the second time, that our bowling unit have not been able to defend something or have not been able to clinch 20 wickets. They have time and again. So they are also entitled for one off day. It's okay. It's 1-1. You've not lost the series. You've got to back this team because this is a quality unit. They will turn it around. Not every day will a Bumrah and a Shami go for 4.5 and over. It is an aberration for the two of them to go for 4.5 and over. And South Africa, if you ask me, are these batsmen that great? No, I'm sorry, they are not. So I think the Indian bowlers will have their measure come the third test.
And also with the rain falling overnight,
the rain
falling, with the covers, that changes the dynamics, that changes the pitch. Because there's a lot of sweating that goes on under the covers. So the crispness...
That's a very important point.
Yeah, the crispness goes out of the pitch. Bhuria, you take it from there.
Absolutely. If you see the Wanderers 3 years back, 124 happened because of this. They were able to go to 124. Hear that interview of Virat Kohli with me, that sort of Virat show of mine, and you will see them, both of them talking about that, what Joydeep said. That, because of the sweat, because of the cover, that crispness, the bounce, what you saw of Rabada yesterday was taken out of the equation also because of the weather. So if you take all of these things into account, you will understand that, our bowlers, let's not be too harsh on them. So why do you celebrate South Africa? Yes, they were good. Obviously, they were good to be able to chase down 240. Otherwise, how on earth did you get 240 in the 4th innings? At the same time, let's not be too harsh on India. The quality side, it's still 1-1 with everything to play for.
And I think a lot of our
Absolutely.
fans, a lot of our viewers agree. We have Deepthi Bhaskar who's saying it's just one bad day for the bowlers. Sachin Gehloat says that we obviously miss Siraj. I mean, clearly Siraj, a fully fit Siraj, we know just the way Sachin mentioned on Boria, your show, that, it could be the first ball of the day or the last ball. He kind of gives in. We probably, even the altercations and the little arguments that he was having with Elgar probably were reflections. He probably felt that he couldn't give his best physically, so he was trying different tactics. But alas, I mean, credit where it's due. Obviously, they have kind of conquered the Wanderers in their own backyard. Let's talk about the Indian batting, right? I think Joydeep, you were alluding to that, and KL Rahul, the captain. I mean, you're right, baptism by fire. He spoke that we probably lost it in the batting in the very first innings, even in the second innings. I think our tail. I mean, maybe Shardul played well. He could have perhaps scored a bit more. Punts dismissal. We would love to get your thoughts. Was it you do you think it's the very first innings we could have set a bigger target, or was it, did we lose the plot in the second half of our second innings? Where did our batting kind of not really live up to expectations?
I think batting has struggled in the last couple of years. If you, as a
Yeah.
unit, so it's not one-off. If you look at
Right.
the last 2 years record of a Pujara, of a Rahane, it's not great. And when your number three and number five don't score, you'll always be in trouble, no matter how good your number four and number one are, because the number one and number two are always playing the new ball, so they are always up against it. Away from India, away from home conditions, so they're up against it. Then your number three is not in form. Your number four is the greatest, is missing out this game. Your number five is also not in form. Your number four also is not in the sort of form that he was 2 years back. So as a group, we're not batting well. Back to 10 years back, 15 years back, it was a Sehwag, Gambhir, Dravid, Tendulkar, Lakshman, Saurav, that Dhoni, that had too much of quality in that. And I say this with all utmost respect for everybody. They're
Yeah.
much bigger game changers. So you wouldn't expect, even if three guys didn't score runs, that the other three could do the rest of the work. But that's not happening over here. We are always short of runs. And when it's bowling friendly conditions, it's even more evident.
See, I'll just
Boria,
add to
your
that. I
thoughts?
mean, even that batting unit has never won in South Africa. That is because we did not have this kind of a bowling attack. Add
And
this
also
bowling
the South
attack
African
to
team.
correct. And
Yes,
if
that's
you
right.
add this bowling attack, but you don't choose your opponents. But having said that, if we add this bowling attack, unreal. But Joydeep is absolutely right when he said your 3-4-5 hasn't performed. Pujara, Kohli, and Rahane have all been inconsistent. Virat's average is some 20 or 30, right? Now, that is not the Virat of 2016, 17, 18. Up to that South Africa series was a different Virat, right? Rather than England series. From that 2018, end of 2018 Australia on and thereafter, it's been a different Virat. It's a bit of a lean patch for 2 years. So India's batting has been always masked the deficiencies because of your bowling unit. That now you
Absolutely.
think that boss 250, arey yaar, 4 fast bowlers, unleash Ashwin, will win. That has become your formula. Had it been a 300 chase, why were we saying 240 is enough? Because these bowlers have now given us that kind of cushion. Key boss, they will deliver. One of them will put
And
their hand up 4 for 5 for and win
and
it.
ha- and had we won today, we wouldn't be talking about the batting even today. We would have said this
Correct.
is it.
That's right.
No
Correct.
problem.
Correct.
So you guys are right. I mean, victory tends to hide these chinks in our armor,
Yeah.
and maybe it's a good wake up call right at the start of 2022 after a fabulous 2021 that the Indian Test side has had. And let me ask you two very pointed questions about that chink in our armor, right? So Sudhir and I have been talking about this over the past few days. One is Pujara Rahane. So there was a particular stat which says since the England series, Pujara's average in the first innings has been less than 6, but in the second innings it's a bit Lakshmanesque where it's 54 plus. Rahane has been hot and after Melbourne on and off. From your perspective, there are a lot of people, whether on Twitter, on media channels, cricketers, ex-cricketers, who are basically saying, every time they're pushed to a corner, they kind of fight back, they kind of, extend their lifeline by another couple of tests. If you were, from a selector's perspective, management perspective, how fair is it to kind of keep extending, and do you see value in that vis-a-vis people like Shreyas, people like Hanuma, who again, unfortunately, we'll talk about him, but he might have to miss out if Kohli comes back. What's your take on Pujara, Rahane? What do they need to do differently to kind of ensure more consistency?
I'll go first.
Joydeep, your take?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I see with Rahane about 5, 6 years back, he looked the best test player that India could ever have. But I think what happened is that in trying to be a very good white ball player as well, which we all want to be, because we play 6, 7, 8 test matches a year, and nobody remembers those test matches. But everybody remembers the white ball cricket we play with the one dayers, with the IPL and everything. So I think in trying to be a good white ball player as well, the dynamics of the right ball and the white ball are different, which we can see with the problems which Shubman Gill and Prithvi Shaw are facing in test match cricket, but they're superb in one day cricket because the ball doesn't move as much and the dynamics are different. But I think that's where Rahane has lost his test match batting a little bit. If we see any test match batting of his 5, 6 years back, he looked really solid. He looked a guy who could bat under any conditions, seaming, bounce, no problem. He's not the same way. There are issues in his technique right now. The way he got out in the second innings, first ball, he opened up completely. He wouldn't have done that 5, 6 years back. So obviously his game is not as airtight as it used to be. So it's a time to, you don't want Pujara and Rahane both to go together, but you would want Shreyas Iyer to play. I know he wasn't indisposed for this game, but even a Vihari, he's done everything you've asked him for. And you can play only that much on your past record. After that, it's what you've done in the last 5, 10, 12 test matches. You get a longer rope than the others because you've played 70 test matches, but you can't play forever on that. That's my view on that.
So I hear that you're okay to replace Rahane with Shreyas, if not in Cape Town in the next series.
Yeah, I would think that's the way to go forward. How long otherwise would you give Rahane? He gets a
Fair
50
enough.
now, then he folds another 4 matches. Then he gets another 51, he plays another 4 matches. If he's lingering on, he's just about hanging by a thread, then it's not a solution.
Right.
Unless you have nobody, and that's not the case with Indian cricket. We always
That's
have
true.
somebody.
Boria, what's your take?
I actually would sort of just break that answer and say you have to now treat Cape Town as a one-off. You're going into a decider, and in that decider, do you want a Rahane or do you want someone else? I think you would want a Rahane. You played him 2 test matches. He's played as good second innings. You give him a game. But as Joydeep said, have your succession plan.
Yeah.
And
Long
the
term.
succession plan is
Long term.
exactly when you're playing at home, get your Viharis, get your Shreyas into the mix and say, okay, you know what? You had a great career, but I now think, or we now think, it is time to move on. You've had a fantastic career. Unless he gets 100 in Cape Town, obviously, if he gets 100 and wins you the series, then you do nothing. But overall, you've got to have a long time. And this 150 in 5 innings cannot keep going for 4 test matches. That's, again, because if you think Shreyas has got 100 and a 50, you're being unfair to Shreyas as well by keeping him out. Hanuma, by the fact that he got a 40-odd this test match, you'll drop him again in the next test match. Are you being fair on Hanuma? You sent him to South Africa for the A team. He delivered there. One-off opportunity delivered there. Then again having to sit out. Now that's the reality of Indian cricket. There are a lot of people there pushing for that one spot. Having said that, I think when Virat comes, it'll be Hanuma who will sit out in Cape Town because India will go in with experience, go in with their best 11, and that will include Pujara and Rahane. But that's a one-off horses for courses call. Long-term, as Joydeep said, I'm entirely in agreement with him.
And also, how does a Shreyas Iyer play 120 test matches? How does he end up playing? And he might be the greatest ever after 120. You never know. So sometimes, I'm all for giving a longer rope to the guys who've done it, but there has to be a cutoff point.
No, I'm in agreement. Absolutely. To me, it's also about, what skill sets are replaceable. Something tells me that a Shreyas Iyer, perhaps given at least 10, 15 matches, could replace a Rahane in terms of middle order stroke making. Pujara, again, as much, I revere, what he has done. And I think his skill set of being able to block and save matches, perhaps maybe Hanuma could, or maybe Mayank if he comes at that level, but still, that's a skill set probably harder to replace. And it's a debatable topic that, you probably at number 3, you can't just be, blocking and saving is one thing, but there are days, and that's the, I guess as a fan, that's the pain point that, the way he played in this match in the second innings, he looked gold. He was scoring at 70, 80 strike rate. But I hear you guys. Let's talk about the other one. We have a question from Shomodeep, again, around Pant, and a lot has been written and is being talked about. Now, it's a very interesting debate. At one end, obviously when I saw him got out, the irrational fan in me said, man, he's lost the plot. He reacted to the sledging and, he's given it up. But when I thought about it, and I read a couple of articles, and it kind of had a counter perspective saying, if I'm upset or pissed with his style, I should be upset with him pretty much across most innings. Even against Lyon, the man went out to hit when there were fielders in the deep. What are your takes? I mean, should a batsman like Pant be let loose, or should he be? Mr. Gavaskar rightfully mentioned on commentary that he had to play according to plan and situation. But is it fair to expect that of a Pant who, even when he scored his big centuries, I don't think he's played according to the plan. He's hit those one-handed sixes. What should be the approach with Pant? Boria?
Let me take that first before Joydeep comes in. Anyone who says that Rishabh Pant plays impulsive and doesn't think doesn't know Rishabh Pant. You must go and listen to one interview of mine that I did with Rishabh Pant after that Sydney test. And I asked this question that, Nathan Lyon to ball, after the Brisbane test. ऐसे घुमा रहा था, आपने आगे आके उसको छक्का मार दिया. And one ball that sort of turned right into first slip. The next ball you danced down the track. And he said, you know what, sir, देखो, जब वो बॉल ऐसे घूमता है तो ऑटोमेटिकली बॉलर के दिमाग में ये चलेगा कि अब मैं मिडिल स्टंप से घुमाऊंगा. सो मैं जानता था वो मुझे वहां खिलाएगा, मैं सामने आके ब्लॉक करके. सो यू क्लियरली नो here is a very, very thinking, solid cricketer. There is a very thin line between recklessness and aggression. Rishabh Pant should always be aggressive because that's the Rishabh Pant. But aggression doesn't mean that he will be reckless. And that is where the line has to be drawn. Even if you see Nathan Lyon, that was not ball one. Yesterday, I thought it was ball two. When he comes down the track, got impulsive and gave his wicket away. So there is a difference. If anybody says Rishabh Pant should bat like Riddhiman Saha, come on, man. Obviously not. So, in fact, Ravichandran Ashwin was far more aggressive than Rishabh Pant in the first innings. I thought Pant should have been a tad more aggressive because he was blocking, and he got out. 43 balls, 17. I thought he could have been more aggressive. So that is my take, that Rishabh Pant. But when you are criticizing Rishabh Pant, the batsman, let's for once take a pause and also praise Rishabh Pant, the wicketkeeper. I think his wicket-keeping has come off big time.
Superb.
He has done enough. And as Saurav repeatedly tells me, Rishabh Pant is one who will win you games. So every time, look, some of the best test innings in recent, even in the last test, the 34 that he got was important for India. So yes, he's failed. So while we be constructively critical on him and say all of this, we have to also put things in perspective and say, yes, it was a bad shot, a bad failure, but let's hold back and not sort of, put him on the lorry and roll him over. Joydeep?
Yeah, I agree with you, Boria. So very nicely put. So, he's an enigma, and he'll play some innings where he'll baffle you, and he'll play some innings where you will really, feel the heat for him. But he's not a finished product yet. I really feel he still hasn't found his game in international cricket. There is no two opinions about his ability. He can be the greatest ever wicketkeeper batsman India has ever produced. And I'm saying that keeping everybody in mind because he's already done a few things which no other keeper has done for Indian Test match cricket, getting hundreds in England, getting hundreds in Australia, and the way he got it, just the fact that, he, with maturity, with age, he's feeling the heat as well, as are we as Indians of that shot. He's in his hotel room now, in that single room, reading some messages, reading some heat that's on him, and that will make him grow mentally. And when you play sport at whichever level, you go there and you have a sense of belonging. You start probably playing school, and then it's club, and then state, or wherever. As you go along, you feel, okay, I belong here. Okay, first when you enter, you feel, my God, this is way out of my league. But then you get a bit of success and you belong there. And then you go to the next one and the same thing happens again. So the greatest thing that has happened for him is that, as Boria rightly put, is that he's wicket keeping very, very well. And he's taken the onus upon himself. He made sure that ex-India keepers were part of the Indian contingent. They're working with him one-on-one. He had the same person in his IPL team looking after himself. So in spite of his batting and the star that he is, he knew he had to work on his keeping. That just goes to show, as Boria said, he's obviously a guy who thinks about his cricket. He might come across, when you hear him on the stump mic, that's another Rishabh Pant, but what's going on inside is another Rishabh Pant. And he is a game changer. It's only a matter of time where all this will come together, and then we'll see the real Rishabh Pant.
Spot on. And I think, as you rightly said, at this tender age, he already has stats to show for that. a Dhoni, a Gilchrist, etc., perhaps may not have achieved. And even in keeping 100 plus dismissals at this age, in the number of test matches that he's achieved in, I mean, kudos. So I think I'm in that same camp that, and I would rather have someone like him who could win one or two overseas series with those spectacular innings, which perhaps a Bharat or a Riddhiman Saha may not be able to. Now we're at the fag end of the show. We have a question from Ashok. Let's talk about Cape Town. Let's look ahead. It's just a few days away. Series at stake for both sides. India has not won here. We've had a couple of draws, but we have lost the others. What would be your respective 11s? Horses for courses. If you had to just plan for this to win a series at the beginning of the year, Joydeep, why don't you go first? Your 11.
Okay, one is straight away that Siraj has to miss out. So we'll have one fast bowler coming in because he's injured. And Virat will come in. Bihari, as I agree with Boria, Bihari will be the one missing out. It's unfortunate. 40 not out on this wicket is as good as it gets. It's like 170 not out at Rajkot. I think these are the two changes. And I don't want too many changes because, everybody's had a feel of this series. They know, they felt the pulse. They've gone and played the bowlers. You don't want two batters who haven't faced. Okay, they haven't got the runs they needed, but I still feel our openers, even in the beginning, our openers were good. KL Rahul is phenomenal. So was Mayank. And he, you can, when he's leaving the field after getting out, you can make out how much it's hurt him. And it's tough conditions for him as well because Australia are very different to South Africa, different to England, different to New Zealand. As Boria knows, he's been everywhere and seen it from close quarters, how the pitches are different. And the bowlers are different. Somebody 6'8" bowling at you on one wicket and a 6'3" bowling at you is different. Some hit the deck, some float the ball. So different types of bowlers. So these guys have learned the trade. They've been in battle. You want to go with them. Don't make changes unless you have to. These two are required. These two will be done.
All right. Boria, your 11?
I actually agree with Joydeep in entirety. I'll just say that, when I replace Siraj, who do I go to? Ishant or Umesh? I would actually go to Ishant because of the experience again. Yeah. Left-hander. I'll go to Ishant and I will get him against Dean Elgar. Pitch the ball up, get it to move away.
Height.
Ishant, the height, exactly. I mean, the moment that you get that height in, because Mohammad Shami, Jasprit Bumrah, similar in terms of height. So you get Ishant and you get that, hit the deck. And I will, that's my only thing to add that yes, Virat for Haruma and Ishant for Mohammad Siraj.
I would have also gone with Ishant because Umesh and Shami are similar type of bowlers.
Yeah.
So you don't want the similar type of bowlers. Yeah. You and both outswingers. You want Ishant, superb against left-handers as we know. And, Dean Elgar is the big kingpin here. He's the guy you got to get out. Him and Bavuma. If you can get these two guys, the others will fall on their own. So you want a bowler like Ishant in a battle like this. 1-1, you want a guy, 100 test matches.
Fair enough. In the next 4 days, we'll see. Of course, I do feel for Hanuma because, after Sydney, injured, he worked his way up. He comes here, he faces a hat-trick ball, does his best, scores a 40. Poor guy has to sit out. But I suppose that's what Test cricket, especially in the Indian circuit, is. But thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us at this hour. Really enjoyed your thoughts and your perspectives on the Test match. Of course, it didn't go India's way, but again, that's what sport is all about. That's the core message from Joydeep and Boria. That's what makes us kind of keep awake at this hour following the game. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back again with Cricket 360 and Sports 360 very soon. Good night.